It's time for live chat. Ooh, the Psychetruth live chat. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on your YouTube machine. Live chat, live chat, live chat, live chat. I'll answer your questions about whatever you want to talk about on the Psychetruth. Live chat, live chat, live chat, live chat. The Psychetruth. Live chat, live chat, live chat, live chat. Ooh, 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 ooh. The Psychetruth live chat. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to my weekly health Q&A live chat session. This is your opportunity to ask me anything that you would like, preferably in the area of health, wellness, weight loss, dieting, healthy eating, and nutrition. Whatever else can possibly go in that category is also fair game here. I'm a certified holistic health coach, and I'm here to answer your questions. So as always, I'm going to begin with the questions that were left ahead of time on our Psychetruth Facebook page. And then I will be coming back into the chat room to answer the questions that you leave for me here. Yes, thank you so much. We've got ASMR Machine, Jonathan Whitger is here, Aaron Ryuzaki, I hope I said your name right. Aurelian 8 is also here. That must be a lot. That's like 1 billion times a lot, right? Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for being here. As I mentioned, I am going to start with the questions that were left on the Facebook page ahead of time. But if you're in the chat room now, you can go ahead and begin leaving your questions. If you leave some question marks at the beginning of your question, that will help it to stand out to me, make it easier for me to see amongst all of the comments. Okay, so Aaron, I'm glad you're here because I noticed that you are one of our Facebook questions that was left ahead of time. My computer is freezing on me a little bit. Hopefully it's not freezing on y'all's end back there. Just a little update since I can't get to the question at this moment. We are on the list to receive Google Fiber, which is the new fiber optic internet, whatever you call it, internet system. So once they've actually installed it in the building, now they just have to install it on the telephone cables or whatever. But once we get Google Fiber, hopefully all of our live chat woes, I know it's always, stopping and not able to keep up, and sometimes the comments don't keep up. But anyways, once we get on the Google fiber optic network, hopefully we will be able to have much better quality. We'll be able to stream these in 1080p, which will be excellent. And hopefully all of the buffering and stuff like that is also taken care of. All right, so here we go. Aaron Ryuzaki, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for leaving your question on our Facebook page. Okay, so Aaron says, hi Corrina, loving both the ASMR channel and the Psychetruth channel. Awesome, I'm so glad to hear that. He says, as a 17-year-old vegan, I've been vegan for 5 months. I've been consuming soy products, especially during the first couple months. So soy products would be things like tofu, as an example. According to my mom's friend, who is a nutritionist and fitness trainer, research has been done that shows that soya, or soybeans, can mess with male hormones and could be one of the factors that contribute towards my acne. I haven't avoided it or anything, just reduced how much of it I eat. What are your thoughts? Okay, so Aaron, really great I'm already tongue-tied and I've barely started. Really great question here. There's a couple different points that I think are really key to touch on. So first of all, let's talk about soy. Now, this is a pretty common topic, definitely something that I've had people ask about before. The thing about soy is not that it is inherently bad for us, okay? It's not like high fructose corn syrup or refined sugar, which are just inherently bad for us. They have absolutely no nutritional offerings whatsoever. But soy is kind of one of these foods that is a potential, can be a potential problem for people. So one of those reasons is that people can actually have an allergy to soy. So it sounds like maybe that's not the situation that you're in, or else you would probably be having more health issues, digestive discomfort, stuff like that. Usually any kind of digestion related issue is usually an indicator of a food allergy. Now, food allergies can also be responsible for things like acne, okay, and any kind of different inflammatory issues that we have in the body. So it is possible that a soy allergy can be responsible for our health issues. So certainly that's something to consider. I don't know if y'all heard that motorcycle or not, but it was pretty loud. But certainly that's something to potentially consider, is that you could actually be allergic to soy. And like I said, that's probably not something you need to worry about unless you're having lots of other significant health issues as well. And then trying to find out if it's a food allergy would be a good route to go. In addition to that, soy can also be an endocrine disruptor. And so this is the research that I think your mom's friend was referencing. So what that means is that in high quantities or large quantities of soy being ingested into the body, it can disrupt the balance of our hormones, right? Or our endocrine system. And that's what an endocrine disruptor, that's what that means, is something that can potentially throw our hormones out of balance. So, the thing about soy, like I said, is that it's not inherently evil, okay? Soy offers a lot of potential benefits to us, especially if we're eating the actual soybeans, like edamame, in their minimally processed state. My other preferred way for you to ingest soy is tempeh, which is basically fermented tofu. So we get health benefits from these healthy sources of soy, okay? They give us fiber, they give us protein. Soy does have nutritional benefits that it offers. But if it's consumed in excess, okay, it can be something that can be potentially troublesome. So in this situation that you're in, Erin, where you've recently gone vegan, and understandably, if you're kind of new to veganism, you probably are eating a lot of soy. Okay, so there's a lot of meat substitutes that are made with soy. Of course, we think about tofu, is usually really common in a vegetarian or vegan diet. So it is, so the potential is definitely there that you could be getting too much soy. And like I said, if you're getting too much soy in the diet, it can be an endocrine disruptor. And it certainly can contribute to hormonal imbalance and other issues that would maybe stem from that, like the acne that you mentioned. Okay, another point that's really important to consider when we're talking about soy is to recognize that soy is an incredibly common ingredient. All right, you'll find that almost any processed food out there on the market, if you start looking at the ingredients, you'll see soy lecithin, soy protein isolate. There's a lot of different food chemicals, all right, that are made out of soy. Okay, soybean oil is another really common ingredient that you'll see. So there's a couple of issues here that really should be noted. Number one is that soy is one of the genetically modified crops. Okay, so canola, corn, cottonseed oil, sugar cane, or I can't remember if it's sugar cane or sugar beets, but one of them are among those genetically modified plants. So when you're eating conventional soy, so non-organic soy, there is a danger that that soy is genetically modified, and that would make it something that is inherently unhealthy, something I would recommend for you to avoid. So the recommendation that you can apply to kind of avoid potentially having genetically modified soy is to make sure that if you are consuming soy, number one, it's organic, or number two, it's just minimally processed. So the actual edamame beans that you eat in the Japanese food restaurant, for instance, those edamame beans are not genetically modified. Okay, the genetically modified soy is the beans that they use to make soy lecithin, soy protein isolate, and all those other things. So if you're eating the actual edamame, or you're eating something that's organic or natural, and a lot of products, even if they're not organic, might actually say non-GMO on them. Those would be good things to look for, because it is going to be important that you try to avoid genetically modified soy, or at least that you avoid having lots of genetically modified soy in the diet. A little tiny bit here and there is not going to be horrible, but if you're eating lots and lots of processed foods with a lot of soy ingredients, then you're probably getting a lot of GMO soy in your diet. The second thing is just the issue of how much the food has been processed. All right, so I've talked a lot here about edamame. That would be the minimally processed soybean in its most natural state. Once we get into things like tofu, soy lecithin, soy protein isolate, now you have a processed form of soy. So all of the protein and fiber and other health benefits that we get in the soya bean itself start to be lost when we process the soy into things like tofu and stuff like that. So anyhow, Erin, I covered a lot of different considerations there, and I hope that that is helpful to you. Kind of the take-home message here, to sum up what I just said there, is to, if you're going to eat soy, look for organic or look for something minimally processed. It's definitely worth considering keeping your soy intake low, especially if you're having an issue like acne, which can be related to hormonal issues, which can be related to soy. That's definitely, is definitely a potential. It's hard to know if that's for sure the cause, but it's definitely a potential. And then that first point I made was that if you're having other health issues, especially digestive issues, then you maybe want to consider that there might be a food allergy at play. So soy is a common food allergy. Some of the most common ones are actually dairy. And actually I've known several people personally who went off of dairy, and that resolved their acne issues. So that's another thing to consider in terms of trying to improve the acne, would be maybe going off of dairy products and seeing if that doesn't help. And you'll be able to observe whether or not it helps, right? Just from eliminating it from your diet. Once again, man, my computer, I'm getting the little spinning. I'm thinking, so I can't click on anything right now. So I'm going to talk about veganism, because that's another kind of part of your question here. Okay, here we go. Awesome. It finally worked. Okay, so guys in the chat room, I see there's a lot of people in there now. I'm going to go ahead and move on from this question. But folks in the chat room, if you want me to discuss veganism or any topic that I bring up in the chat, if you want me to go back to it and discuss it more, y'all just leave that in the comments. Okie dokie. So there was just that one question left on the Facebook page. I was a little late posting the announcement today on the Facebook, unfortunately. So I think maybe that's why I had some less questions than I usually do there. Okay, so now I'm in the chat room and I'm fielding questions. I'm starting at the top. So if you just left your question, it'll take me a little bit to get down to it. All right, so you only need to leave it once. Okay, so here we go. I love this. Aaron Flaherty says, is Google Fiber a healthy source of fiber? I love it. You know, I think that they're referring to a fiber optic cable, not quite the same as the fiber that we need in our diet. But a very cute and clever joke. I love it, Aaron. Thank you so much for leaving that comment. Always love something that brings a smile to my face. Okay, Jonathan Whitger, here we go. Question mark, question mark, question mark. As we head into the cold and flu season, what is the best way to avoid getting sick? And that is a great freeze frame. It just freezed me on. Hopefully it's not freezing for you guys too. Whoa. Okay, cold and flu season. Now I have, I think, 2, maybe 3 videos that are specifically like tips about cold and flu season and trying to boost our immune system. So I'm probably will mention a couple of those here, but I would definitely refer you over to those videos. If you search cold remedies or cold and flu on the channel, you will find those videos that have much more extensive answer to your question. But let's go ahead and talk about a couple things, because what an important topic, right? Once we're already sick, now, you know, we just got to wait it out. We feel all puny. But what can we do to help lower our chances of getting sick in the first place? Okay, that's a really good question. So first off, we need to talk about our immune system, right? Because our immune system is what protects us from all of those bacteria, pathogens, viruses. We're constantly coming into contact with these different potential pathogens, and our immune system is literally working 24 hours a day, every single moment, waking or non-waking moment. Okay, our immune system is working to protect us. So there's a couple of things that we can do to protect our immune system and help it function better. So I'm going to start by talking about the things that hurt our immune system. A lot of times in health and wellness, we're talking about things that you should do or things that you should add to your diet and lifestyle. But I think it's also really important to think about the things we shouldn't do. Okay? Especially because these are things that most of us do really commonly. I know before I got really interested in health, this would have described me to a T, right? So things that are going to decrease the efficiency of our immune system, okay, and make us more prone to be sick. Number 1, consumption of highly processed foods. Now, unless this is your first time ever meeting me, ever seeing me in a video, I'm sure you've heard me talk about the problems with processed foods before. But in terms of our immune system, this is one of the most, probably one of the most observable ways that processed foods harm our body, okay? They decrease our energy, they decrease our body's vitality, okay? Our body's ability to fight off the bad things and have the energy to do all of the good things that we want to do, right? So when we consume a lot of processed foods, this creates what's called inflammatory markers. Okay, so inflammation is an immune system response. It's actually the response you get if you get a scratch or a bug bite, where the skin becomes like red and puffy around that abrasion. All right, and that inflammation, okay, that inflammatory response, that inflamed response is your immune system working, right? It's your immune system bringing in fresh blood cells and whatever it needs to that area to try and fight that infection and try and heal up that cut or abrasion. All right, so inflammation is a very important thing in the body. It's literally responsible for keeping us healthy. But if we have too much inflammation, then it's something that contributes to making us unhealthy. All right, and you can kind of imagine that, right? That process of inflammation that you get around a bug bite or a scratch, if you have that going on internally to an excess, you could see where that would be harmful, right? So inflammation can occur anywhere throughout the body, okay? And certainly in our gut and digestive tract. So they actually are able to do scientific research, and they've observed that there's these certain inflammatory markers. And basically what that means is it's a chemical or molecule that indicates inflammation, that indicates that there is an inflammatory response going on. And so this is one way that they're able to actually tell, you know, what are things that improve inflammation or cause inflammation and what are things that decrease inflammation, right? They literally can do a blood test and observe in your blood, what your levels of inflammation are. So when we're talking about processed foods, okay, especially things like refined sugar, enriched flour, all right, so that's your white bread, pasta, pizza, all of those things that, we love to eat the most, but that white bread is really awful for us, okay? So sugar, white bread, processed foods, all of these things are known to contribute to inflammation in the gut, right? Inflammation of your digestive tract. So again, you can kind of visualize what it looks like if you got a bunch of bug bites, and then imagine that inside of your large intestine. Anyways, for me, this is a very clear and obvious way of understanding how inflammation is harmful. But in case it's not, I do have some other videos on this topic. The bottom line is that we want to avoid things that are going to increase the amount of inflammation in our body. Because inflammation is an immune system response, the more inflammation we have throughout the body is actually weakening our immune system. Okay, and it actually, quite literally, kind of destroys tissues. And again, you can think of that visual effect of what an inflamed bug bite looks like, right? So the processed foods contribute a lot to inflammation. That is a really important concept, and one of the main things that helps me to avoid eating those foods, because I'm like, I don't want to get sick. God, I hate being sick. It's horrible. So recognizing that those processed foods really do weaken the immune system by literally causing inflammation in your digestive tract and stuff is a really big deterrent for me, deterring me from eating those foods. So on the flip side, foods that help the immune system would be things that are considered anti-inflammatory, right? So these are things that help the body function better, okay? And they don't cause an immune system response in the body. So that's all of your natural foods, vegetables, fruits, minimally processed whole grains like brown rice as a great example, okay? So eating more natural foods is great. I talked a lot about foods. Other things that can boost our immune system. I cannot stress enough the importance of sleep. Okay, and I know it's one of those things that it's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to sleep and blah, 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 but it's so boring. And guys, I understand because I am a night owl, okay, and I like to stay up late. And as I've gotten older, I've had to start kind of forcing myself to go ahead and go to bed earlier and try to get more sleep, because I know how important it is that we get sleep. And honestly, the times that I start depriving myself of sleep, I often get sick. So when I was in college, man, anytime it would be finals, around finals and big exams, and I was staying up all night a lot, I would almost inevitably always get sick. So again, there's actually specific studies where they can look at sleep, and they notice that when people are not getting adequate sleep, they have more of these inflammatory markers or signs of inflammation, increased inflammation in the body. All right, so sleep is super important. Kind of on that same note, stress relief, handling stress, doing things like yoga for relaxation. And one of the biggest things about stress is premeditating it, or not premeditating it, but trying to prevent it. So what I mean is that if right now you're like, oh, I don't really feel stressed out, I feel pretty good, I think things are fine, well, that's a really good time to go ahead and do some yoga for relaxation. Because what doing that kind of yoga and stretching and breathing does is help give our body the tools it needs to handle stress when stress arises, right? So once something stressful arises, it becomes harder and harder not to be stressed out, right? And then it's going to come in really handy if you have some good breathing exercises or good stretches that you can do to help you handle that stress. And just as an overall statement about yoga, and especially those relaxing yoga or yoga for bedtime type videos, is that they literally just contribute to better health throughout the body, better balance throughout the body. Okay, when we're talking about our hormones, we're talking about cortisol, the stress hormone. All of these things, all of the homeostasis and balance of these different things are all greatly improved by yoga. Then you have the consideration that physical tension that stores up in the body also contributes to stress. So just moving the body, even if you do one of the videos that's like simple stretches for beginners, moving your body around, and especially getting exercise, but even if you don't go that far, just the stretching on its own will be incredibly beneficial. The last thing I would say, cannot stress enough the importance of drinking water, lots and lots of water, especially in wintertime, oftentimes because we're cold. Maybe we don't drink as much water as we do in the summertime, but it's actually even more important that we're hydrating during the winter because the air is more dry. Then we run heaters, and those dry out the air even more. So a humidifier is an excellent way to add a little bit of moisture back into the air. I almost always will be running a humidifier at night during the winter time. You can even diffuse essential oils with your humidifier. And now you're going to be putting these beneficial essential oils into the air, which can be great too. A lot of them have anti-inflammatory effects, okay? Immune system building effects, which is excellent. Something like lavender will also help you to relieve stress and relax, which again is going to help you get more sleep, and all of that contributes to a stronger immune system. Things like lemon, especially lemon added to your water. Lemon is a great alkalizing, detoxifying thing to add to your diet. Things like garlic and ginger are great natural immune boosters. And I believe we actually, I'm not sure if I have an immune system building foods video, but if you, I do have a lot of videos that talk about immune system health and stress relief and stuff like that. All of those foods are going to be great things to help and boost your immune system. So Jonathan, really great. I don't know why I'm tongue-tied here today. It's a little bit odd. Great question there. Thank you so much. Okay, Alyssa Winston, is eating one big meal a day to lose weight unhealthy? Okay, Alyssa. So this is a good question. Now, the question of whether to eat 3 meals a day or snack throughout the day is a topic I actually have a whole video on. I didn't discuss eating one big meal a day in that video because a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't think that's sustainable. I know for myself, there's just no way, even if I ate a copious amount of food, I would still be hungry 6 or 7 hours later. You know, probably sooner than that, but definitely by 6 or 7 hours later, I would be starving. So I don't think it's realistic to think that you could just eat one meal a day. I think you would end up being really miserable all of the rest of the day. Second consideration is that, you know, our stomach is a certain size, and I think they say that it's approximately the size of your fist. So you can think about, well, you know, how much food can you fit in something that's that size? So when we eat really, really big meals, it literally stretches out our stomach. And this is one thing that is a, you know, really common issue when we're talking about weight gain, overeating, inability to lose weight, is that the mere act of overeating literally stretches out your stomach. So that means the next time you eat, you're going to eat more than you did before. And then the next time you're probably going to eat more than you did before, right? So a really important consideration when we're talking about losing weight and controlling our weight is to not stretch out the stomach, okay? Too much, right? And so I'm not telling you to not eat. I'm just saying don't overeat, okay? Overeating has, I mean, actually a lot of really bad implications. And in terms of things like managing our blood sugar, overeating is one of the absolute worst things you can do. So I would say that eating one big meal per day is actually completely counterintuitive to losing weight. Number one, because you're stretching your stomach out, far beyond its comfort level, which means you're going to need more and more food to fill you up as you stretch your stomach out more and more. Like I said, I just don't think it's realistic. Even if I ate a copious amount of food, I would still be hungry later on in the day. So I think it's actually going to be much more beneficial to focus on spreading your meals out throughout the day, and really eating based on your hunger. Okay, and if you're feeling starving, you should eat. Period. Okay, whether you're trying to lose weight or not. Losing weight is not about starving yourself. And honestly, if you want to lose weight and you want to be healthy, starving yourself is the absolute last thing you should do. Okay? Even if you're eating one big meal and then starve yourself later in the day, that's still bad. I personally am on the kind of 3 meals per day bandwagon. I don't do a lot of snacking between meals. I do eat, I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of natural foods. So when you're eating those natural foods and they give you fiber and they give you healthy fats, well, they actually fill you up and they'll kind of self-regulate how much you can eat. And if there is a certain aspect where you kind of have to stop eating, you know what I mean? And you can kind of think about the size of your stomach, right? Eat a reasonable amount of food and then give yourself 10 minutes and see if that hunger satiation, that feeling of your hunger being satisfied, comes. And if it doesn't, maybe you eat a little bit more. But oftentimes for me, I'll end up feeling my hunger is satisfied and then I don't want to eat anymore. And that meal will usually sustain me for several hours because I make a point to eat meals that have all of the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and that have a lot of fiber. Okay? I'm looking to make sure that the calories I'm eating are giving me lots of nutrients and they're not those empty calories or wasted calories that aren't actually going to contribute to filling me up and satisfying my body's nutritional needs. Okay, Lucy Neild, if you feel like you eat the right foods but eat too much, what is a way to balance eating the right amount? Okay, so this is a really cool question, Lucy, and this actually kind of dovetails on to the previous question that I was just talking about. So this concept of how do we fill ourselves up? How do we keep ourselves from overeating? Okay, because of course, one way to keep ourselves from overeating is just mere will control, right? How much can you control yourself and ignore extreme feelings of hunger or extreme food cravings? Now, in my personal opinion, it is not a workable health or weight loss model for you to be denying yourself a really severe food craving or really severe hunger. Okay? We could maybe do that for a little while, but more times than not, 9 times out of 10, if you are trying to restrict the amount of food you're eating, you're starving yourself or something, you're just going to end up binge eating later, right? You're going to end up massively overeating later. Where if we can satisfy our hunger when we eat, right, we're going to be much less likely to overeat, and we're going to be much less likely to binge later on because we've actually satisfied our hunger. So, in terms of balancing out the right amount of food to eat, this can be, this is a really kind of personal question. And I don't mean personal like intimate. I mean personal like it very much varies person to person, right? So the number of calories that I need to eat is going to be very different than the number of calories that my mom or my dad needs to eat, or somebody who's a 13-year-old needs to eat, right? So the number of calories that we need is going to depend on a lot of things. Our age, how active we are, that's probably the biggest one, right? So if you're somebody who's really active, you're going to eat way more calories than someone who's a couch potato. But because you're really active, you might actually end up weighing less than the couch potato because you're burning off those calories, right? So even though you're eating more, you know what I mean, you might actually weigh less than someone who eats fewer calories but isn't physically active. So physical activity is a big consideration, something you need to pay attention to, and know that on days you're physically active, you're gonna eat more than you do on days that you're not. So as far as, you know, balancing out the right amount to eat, I think that the best way to do that is to listen to our body and to let our body dictate how much we eat. All right, and so what I mean by that is that we listen to our food cravings, right? We listen to our feelings of hunger, and we let our body guide us in that way. All right, so I don't count calories. I don't have a certain sized plate and only eat a certain size plate of amount of food, okay? I listen to my body, and I try to let my body tell me when I'm full and I can stop eating. Now, I'm human, and I'm sure that I still end up overeating sometimes because food tastes good, right? And oftentimes that feeling of satisfied hunger, it's a little bit delayed response, right? So you actually maybe need to stop eating for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm full. I don't need to eat anymore. So that's one kind of tip, I guess, okay, is that when you're eating, eat a certain amount, and then put your fork down, talk with the people you're talking to, or play on your phone, or whatever you're gonna do, to let a little bit of time pass by, and then listen and pay attention. Be like, well, am I still hungry? Or do I just want more pizza because it tastes good? One way that I check in with myself, if I feel like I can't tell if I'm hungry or not, is to say, would I eat a salad right now? Right? Because if you're really hungry, you're going to be like, ooh, salad, yeah, that sounds awesome. But if you're not really hungry, then maybe a salad sounds gross, but pizza sounds great. But that's a good kind of test, right? To see if you're really hungry or not. Because if only pizza and ice cream sound good, you're probably not actually hungry, right? You just want those foods because they taste good. They have pharmacological amounts of sodium in them and stuff, sodium or sugar in them. But asking yourself, you know, could I eat a salad right now? It's a really good way for me to determine whether or not I'm really hungry. All right. So if we're getting the nutrients that our body needs, those feelings of satiation will come. So if you are having a problem with feeling like your hunger is never satisfied, that is an indication that you are not eating the right foods. Because chances are that if you're overweight, but you feel that your hunger is not satisfied, it's not that you aren't eating enough calories, it's that you aren't eating the right calories. Okay, so hunger kind of comes from two different causes. Our body's energetic needs, okay, the need for calories, and our body's nutritional needs. Nutritional needs for protein, for omega-3 fatty acids, for minerals, right? Nutritional needs for all the different nutrients in the foods. And so our hunger is kind of these two things coming together. So oftentimes what we see in people who are struggling with weight issues is that they have, you know, their energetic calorie intake is huge. They're eating a huge amount of calories, but their nutritional intake is incredibly low because they aren't eating the right foods. They're eating processed foods, they're eating pizza, they're eating junk food. So they're getting tons of calories, but they're getting no nutrients. So that's a really important concept to understand in terms of how do we get that feeling of satisfied hunger. And if our hunger never feels satisfied, you want to get to the bottom of that, okay? And that's a really important topic right there. And I think I have if you put in hunger, okay, if you put in hunger in the search bar on our channel, I have several videos on that topic. There's one called Control Hunger, Lose Weight. I love that video. It's not super popular. It hasn't gotten lots of views, but I think it is one of my best videos in terms of just an absolutely crucial concept in the area of weight loss and health. So anyhow, Lucy, I kind of talked about a lot of things there. I covered a lot of ground. Let me know if I answered your question, or if maybe there is something else that you wanted me to address that maybe I didn't address. So like I said, I know I kind of covered a lot of ground there with that answer. Okay, Tanya Saurus. I feel bad. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that or not. Okay, what supplements should we take? Okay, so this is another really, really common question, okay, that I get a lot. And again, I have a really long answer with several points. It should probably come as no surprise to you guys at this point. All right, so supplements. There's a couple things that I think are really important to say about supplements. The first one is that I would always prefer that you get your nutrients from foods than from supplements or pills. Okay? So I would always rather that you are getting your protein, your fiber, your vitamins, all those different things from eating actual foods like whole grains, legumes, aka beans, vegetables, fruits, etc. Right? And when you're eating those foods, theoretically, you should be able to get all of the nutrients your body needs. Now, with that in mind, here comes the little touch of realism, right? The touch of reality, which is that in our modern day, okay, the average diet, certainly the average American diet, but not just in America, okay, the average diet in our kind of modern day world doesn't give us as many nutrients as the diet of someone 200 or 300 years ago, right? So 200, 300 years ago, all people had to eat was natural foods. They didn't have processed foods. They didn't have high fructose corn syrup. Those things didn't exist, all right? So they were just eating natural foods, and that was all they really had to eat. And they were able to get their nutrients from those foods. Now, fast forward 200 years, now we're eating lots of processed foods. Just the very soil that our vegetables are grown in, the soil doesn't have the same minerals that it did 200 or 300 years ago before the Industrial Revolution. So now even our vegetables that we're growing, they don't have the same nutritional bang for your buck, so to speak, as they did 200 or 300 years ago. And that's just because of the quality of the soil. So that's one of the big benefits of eating organic, is that organic farming pays a lot of attention to keeping the soil healthy, making sure that the soil has all of the minerals and other things that those vegetables need in order to grow and be the healthiest vegetables they can be. I'm getting a little off topic here, but the bottom line is that our modern diets and processed foods have kind of created the need for supplements. So previously, there wasn't as much of a need for supplements because you could get most of the nutrients from the diet, but now that's not as easy, right? And so supplements have become more and more popular. In terms of answering a question like, what supplements should we take? Again, and this is, so I would kind of borrow this from one of the previous answers, this is kind of a personal question. And again, not personal in an intimate way, but personal in this is going to vary person to person. So the supplements that I need to take are going to be different than the supplements that someone in Alaska needs to take, or someone who is a pro athlete needs to take, right? The way we live, where we live, how physically active we are, our physical health conditions. All of these different things are going to contribute to what are the nutritional needs of our body? What are the nutrients that we need to supplement? So the best way to answer the question of what supplements should we take is to actually go have your blood panels done, have blood work done, and have them look at your body and your test results, and then they will be able to tell you, oh, your omega-3s are low, or your this is low, or you need more vitamin A, right? They'll actually be able to look at your body and they can tell you what it is you need. All right, so vitamin D is a great example. And vitamin D is one of those vitamins that it's very important that if you supplement it, that the doctor monitors your levels, because you don't want to be getting too much, but you also don't want to be getting too little. There's a lot of health issues associated with vitamin D. Again, we have a whole video just on the topic of vitamin D. But it's a great example, right? Because I couldn't just look at you and tell you you should supplement it. You really need to go to a doctor and have them run the blood work and look at your body, and they'll be able to tell you what supplements you need. That's really the only way to answer that question. Now, there are a couple of supplements that I do think are pretty much beneficial for everybody. The first one is probiotics. So probiotics are things that feed the good bacteria in our gut. So hopefully at this point you've heard the discussion of good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the idea is that those good bacteria, you need them. You need them for your immune system to function, your digestive system to function. Okay, all of the different functions of our body are really dependent on our GI tract working properly and our bodies being able to get the nutrients from the food that they need, right? So probiotics are huge. I would pretty much recommend probiotics to anyone and everyone, especially if you have GI or digestive issues, and especially if you have immune system issues, okay? Probiotics, and again, I have a whole video on that topic if you want more information. And omega-3s. So omega-3s are one of the fatty acids. There's omega-6 and omega-3. Omega-6 is largely represented in things like animal meats and dairy products. Most people are getting too many omega-6 fats and not enough omega-3s. So omega-3s can come from fish. They can also come from different seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds. There's a lot of different seeds out there that make great sources of omega-3s. But an omega-3 supplement is something that, once again, pretty much everyone on the planet will be able to benefit from, unless you're someone who is vegan and is eating a lot of vegetables and natural whole foods. You know, if you're eating really super healthy, you're probably getting enough omega-3s, but pretty much for all the rest of us, if you're eating the average diet, omega-3 is a pretty good supplement that across the board will be helpful for people. Let's see. Once you start thinking about it, there's actually quite a lot. Oddly enough, iodine is another kind of important supplement. Again, previously, you know, people would get iodine from their diet. Now we don't get as much iodine naturally in our diet. The importance of iodine was discovered many years ago, and it's actually why they create the iodized salt, right? They started adding iodine into the salt because they realized, wow, if people need this in their diet, we really need to make sure people get enough iodine. So unfortunately, conventional salt is not really a healthy food. I would recommend that you use sea salt or a mineral-rich salt. But if you do that, then you do probably want to take an iodine supplement because then you're not getting the iodine from the iodized sea salt. Now, the iodized sea salt, like I said, is really not the best way to be getting iodine in the first place. Iodine is really important because it helps protect your brain. Okay, and there's a lot of very delicate parts of our brain, so to speak. And so iodine is very important for helping protect the brain from radiation. So if I just had to narrow it down, I think those three are good to go. Minerals in general, if you are having lots of salt cravings, okay, if you crave a lot of salty foods, you are probably deficient in minerals. Okay, our body's food cravings are our body's way of communicating with us. Okay, so when we have a craving for something, listen to it, because your body is probably trying to tell you something. So in the case of salty cravings, usually this indicates that you need more minerals in your diet. So you can eat more mineral-rich foods. You could also take minerals as a supplement. But again, like I said at the very beginning of this answer, I would always prefer that you get your nutrients from foods than from a pill. The last thing I'll say about supplements is that if you are going to take them, make sure that it is sourced from a food and it's not synthetic. Okay, there's a lot of vitamins and other pills and medications out there that are synthetic. Okay, they aren't derived from a natural food. They're synthetically made in a laboratory. You really want to try and avoid those synthetic vitamins and stuff as much as possible. Okie dokie. Headley77, whose idea was it for the new Psychetruth logo? So we actually just have a new graphic designing Wonder Woman that we are working with, and she's designing some t-shirts for us. So I don't know if y'all noticed, but we actually do have merchandise now. And it's really cool because we've created several designs, and then you can get it printed on any kind of shirt. You can get it printed on a mug or a sticker or a tote bag. It's really, really neat. So she was designing all this merchandise, and in that kind of task or whatever, she also created a new logo for us that we could use to put on t-shirts and water bottles. And then Mikey liked it so much he went ahead and made it the new little icon for the channel. So we've kind of been wanting to get an actual graphic designer in here for a while to help us create better icons and logos. So it's kind of been something that we've been wanting to do for a while. Okay, Antonio de Lima, Corrina, can you please talk a little bit about Candida? Okay, so Candida is a condition of yeast overgrowth in the body. So yeast is something that is not inherently bad, okay, to have in our body. It actually plays a lot of very important roles and functions in our body, a lot like those good bacteria that we talked about a minute ago. But when there is an overgrowth of yeast in the body, then it becomes problematic. So we kind of saw this when we were talking about inflammation. It's not that it's inherently bad, but once you have too much of it, now it becomes harmful. Same situation with yeast. Once it actually takes over and is growing too much in the body, you have an overpresence of yeast, now it can start creating health issues in the body. So Candida is a way of describing this condition of yeast overgrowth, an excess of yeast within the body. So when we talk about issues that can stem or be caused by Candida, the list is quite long. There's actually a lot of conditions that actually can have the root cause in Candida or yeast overgrowth. So yeast is, I was going to say is fed by, but I should just say yeast feeds on sugar. So if you're someone who eats a lot of sugar, there's a really good chance that you are either already in a state of Candida or that you're kind of on your way. All right, because again, yeast feeds on sugar. So if you're someone who's eating a lot of sugar, you're feeding that yeast within your body. So when we talk about ways or remedies for candida, the only way to completely help your body heal from that condition is to completely go off sugar for a period of time. Now, I tell everyone, I talk a lot about it's important to cut back on sugar, avoid refined sugar, stuff like that. Now, in most cases, I take a realistic aspect, which is that, like, okay, yes, you're probably still going to consume this sometime. Let's be realistic. But if you have candida overgrowth, okay, so this would be like you have chronic yeast infections, things like shingles can be caused by candida. What is it called in the mouth? Flush can often be caused by candida, okay? If you really want to completely remedy the candida, then you have to completely eliminate sugar for a period of time. And that means like no fruit, no beets, I think even carrots. They say like no carrots if on the candida diet. And if you look up candida diet, there's lots of books, there's lots of websites on the topic. And usually what they'll do is break it out into phases. So in the first phase, it's like absolutely no sugar. And then, after 2 or 3 weeks, you can start integrating in like squash and carrots, and it'll kind of take you through those different phases. But unfortunately, candida is one of those situations that there is a complete avoidance of sugar is necessary in order to completely remedy that condition. So Antonio, let me know if you had a different question about candida, or if I covered, if I potentially answered your question there in that answer. There's certainly a lot that can be said about that as a condition. And because, sugar is so highly consumed, so pervasively consumed, candida is a more and more common problem. I definitely see it among my health coaching clients more and more frequently, which is unfortunate because it has such a strict remedy, which can be unpleasant. But man, if you're somebody who's suffering from a candida related condition, then you're sitting there going, hey, whatever it takes to get rid of it. Okay, so here we go. JPFG 259. If fruit juices are bad for your health because it has no fiber, how much fiber would you need in food to think, oh, okay, it has 10 grams of sugar, but given that I have X amount of fiber, I'm good? Really good question. This is actually a really cool question. I've never quite seen a question like it. I anticipate that maybe you're a mathy, sciencey type person. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You can let me know. Okay, so I like that you are taking this concept, okay, and wanting to apply it. But let me see if I can bring a little bit more clarity to this concept and hopefully answer your question in the context of this little explanation. Okay, so JPFG, what he's saying is, I've talked a lot about fruit and fruit juices. And basically the take-home message when we're talking about fruit juice is that once you've pulled just the liquid from the fruit, you have a high concentration of sugar. Now it's in a drinkable form, so you can literally like glug, 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 glug. And you'll get a lot of sugar, right? So if you actually eat the apple or the strawberries or whatever it is that you might be juicing, the grapes, all right, when you eat them, you get the fiber that is contained in that fruit. And this is why I tell you guys that it's always better to eat the whole piece of fruit than to have the juice. And I'm not saying you need to eat the rind and the peel or anything like that. I'm just saying eat the apple or eat the banana as opposed to having the juice. Not that people juice bananas, but Hopefully the point comes across. Okay, so what he's saying is, all right, so you're saying that if there's fiber in it, that makes the sugar okay. So is there any kind of rule of thumb you can give me that if it has X amount of sugar, then it should have X amount of fiber? Unfortunately, there's not really a mathematical kind of guideline like that, like 10 grams of fiber, 10 grams of sugar. I can't really give you a number like that. But what I can tell you that hopefully will be helpful is that you're going to be better off just opting for natural, minimally processed foods. Okay, so if you're looking at a packaged food, a processed food, and you're looking at the sugar content and you're looking at the fiber content and you're trying to justify to yourself that processed food, just know that you're trying to justify junk food. And unfortunately, there's not really a justification for it. So another way of saying that is that unfortunately, when we're talking about processed foods, there really isn't a certain amount of fiber that makes it okay to have refined sugar or high fructose corn syrup or lots and lots of sugar or whatever. And what you'll find is that on most processed foods, it's going to be high calorie, high sugar, or high carb, and the fiber is just going to be low. And by and large, there's probably very, very few processed foods that have very much fiber in them at all. So you probably won't end up in a situation where you're like, oh, it's got 100 grams of sugar, but 200 grams of fiber. You're just not going to see that. All right, so let's go back to my recommendation, which was that the rule of thumb that I find easiest to follow, and that's going to be healthiest for you in terms of health and weight loss or controlling weight, okay, is to eat the natural food. And the thing about it is that, you know, these foods that grow out of the ground, they're kind of this cool nutritional, all-around nutritional package. So within that fruit or vegetable or whatever, it contains the minerals and enzymes that are needed to digest the food. It contains the perfect amount of fiber that is needed in the food. Okay, so in its natural, unadulterated state and unprocessed state, that natural food is good to go. It's awesome. Now, when we're talking about the different fruits, there are some fruits that are higher sugar than others. Some fruits have more fiber than others. Cherries are, I think, one of the best examples, one of the healthiest fruits out there in terms of low sugar, high fiber. So what this does, it makes them lower glycemic. I don't want to go off on a big tangent about the glycemic index. If y'all want me to talk about it, y'all let me know, and I'm happy to go that route. But I don't want to go too far off topic in this answer. So JPFG, let me know if that answered your question. Let me know if that helped, or if maybe you're sitting there like, man, you just blabbed for 10 minutes and you still didn't answer my question. Let me know. Tell me. By and large, eating natural foods, to me, is just so much easier than trying to look at a processed food label and determine if this processed food is okay, or this or that, or does it have enough this, or what's the ratio of fiber to sugar. I don't want to pay attention to that. I don't want to look at that. I just want to eat natural foods. And then I don't have to count calories. I don't even have to look at a nutrition label, because usually it won't even have one, right? A piece of fruit, a piece of squash doesn't have a nutrition label because it's just one whole natural food. And that, by far, I think is the best guideline in terms of choosing things that are healthy, good for our waistline, good for our health. Okay, so Psychetruth says, I've heard some algae are rich in iodine. So I presume that when I mentioned iodine up here, there was a bit of a conversation about it. And yes, the various sea vegetables and algae like spirulina and chlorella are a great source of iodine. Yeah, hit the nail on the head. Very good job. Okay. ASMR Machine, have you ever released any of your music? I have a YouTube channel, so the Corrina Rachel that I always comment on for you guys. If you click on that, it'll take you to my music channel. I do have a little, like, EP or whatever that I released several years ago. I'm working on getting on iTunes and stuff and whatever and things, but at the moment, my YouTube channel is really the only place to hear my music. Okay, wee poi, or wepoi. How can I get motivation to keep going to the gym? So this is a good question. I think there's a couple of different things that can be said. First of all, if you hate going to the gym, you don't have to go to the gym in order to be healthy. There are lots and lots of ways to exercise your body and strengthen your body without ever setting foot in a gym. So I'm not saying that going to the gym is bad. I'm just saying that if you don't like it, you don't have to go. You could take up swimming, yoga, karate, or some kind of martial arts. Would be a great way to build strength, and it's fun. Kickboxing. For girls, there's all kinds of different dance classes, Zumba. Even for guys, why not? Dance workouts are a great way to lose weight, and it's freaking fun. So for me, the best way to motivate myself to exercise is to do something fun to exercise. Because if I'm like, okay, now I'm going to motivate myself to go be miserable for 2 hours, it's going to be a lot harder than if I'm like, woohoo, I'm going to take my dog hiking. We're going to go swimming. I'm going to go for a jog through this beautiful hike and bike trail. These are things that I really like doing. So I guess my first tip is, the best way to motivate yourself to work out is to find a way of working out that you like to do and that you enjoy. Joining a football team. There's lots of, like non-competitive sports teams and stuff like that, where you can just go just to have fun. But man, playing, soccer or something like that with a group of people is a super fun way to work out. And I talked about swimming, yoga, dance classes, mountain biking or climbing, rock climbing, stuff like that. There's so many fun ways to work out. So I just think it's important that to understand that and to really embrace the idea that you want to find a way of working out that you enjoy and that you like doing, and preferably that's fun. Okay? Because motivating yourself to go do something that you don't like doing and you don't enjoy is really difficult. Now, I do think that, to an extent, obviously, for most of us, right, we would rather be laying on the couch than going and working out, even if it was something fun. Okay, so I understand that. So in terms of motivating myself to get up off the couch, motivating myself to go out and do something, even if I really don't feel like doing it right then. Because any athlete will tell you, if you're waiting until you feel like going for a run or until you feel like going for a workout, you're probably never going to do it. So that's part of what motivation is, right? Is motivating yourself to do something even if you don't necessarily want to do it. So when I'm when I'm in that situation and I want to motivate myself, one of the biggest motivators to me is just, knowing that I'm going to feel better after I go do that thing. After I go for a run or go work out or whatever, you feel better because it literally pumps out endorphins into your body. You're going to feel better because it's literally unlocking stress and tension in the body. Anything we do, moving our bodies around, unleashes, unlocks, helps us let go of stress and tension that we're holding throughout the body, right? We can think about ourselves being at work like this, and then after we work out, we feel a lot better, usually. And that I know I'm going to feel good about myself after I do it. Because I do. After I cook a healthy meal or after I go work out, I'm always like, yeah, I feel good about myself, right? It makes me feel happy. So that's a big part of the motivation for me, is just rather than saying, ugh, I really don't want to go. Oh, I hate going to the gym. Oh, I hate working out. Is to go, man, you know what? I'm just going to go because I know I'm going to feel better after I get home. Dina Maddie, who is one of my fitness idols, I find her incredibly motivating. You know, she has a lot of friends and stuff that she works out with, that she trains with. And so I think a lot of her motivation also comes from being around other motivated people. And it kind of creates this synergistic effect of when you have several people who are motivated, it helps all of them to motivate each other more. So if you don't have anyone where you live that could be your motivational partner or your gym buddy or whatever, find someone online. This freaking chat room is actually an incredible place to find a workout buddy or just a partner, someone that you're chatting with, you share your experiences with at the gym, you can be there to motivate each other and kind of hold each other accountable. Because that's another thing that I find motivating, or that helps me to motivate myself, is having someone else that I can talk to about my run, or I can talk to afterwards. You know, someone, whether they go with me or not, obviously if somebody goes with you, that automatically makes it more fun. But even if it's just talking on the phone to my friend after I make dinner or do whatever, and I'm able to share with them and talk about like, oh man, I made this really healthy meal tonight and I'm feeling so good about it, and then they encourage you, having another person to help motivate and encourage each other is really, really awesome. And like I said, this chat room is a great place to find people. So you can even leave a comment and say, hey, I'm looking for a motivation buddy. Anyone interested? And I bet you anything you'll see several people that are potentially interested. I encourage you guys to team up and pair up with each other to work together to motivate one another. Yes, Elke Aptroot, iodine is essential for thyroid function. Yeah, protecting the thyroid is a really important role that iodine plays. Again, because the thyroid is very, very delicate and susceptible to radiation. So radiation coming out of the computer, coming out of the TV, coming out of the Wi-Fi machine. I mean, we are exposing ourselves to lots and lots of radiation in the modern world, in the modern day and age. Microwaves. I mean, there's just radiation coming out of everything, right? That's how things work, right? There's radiation coming out of us. Now, it's not the same as the radiation that comes out of the computer or out of the Wi-Fi router, okay? But the bottom line is that protecting our thyroid from radiation is incredibly important, especially if you work around computers, work in a highly industrialized place, or live in a big city. You know, if you're living out somewhere rural, working on a farm, there's no TVs near you, no computers, okay, maybe that's, you know, this isn't as much of a concern, right? But if you're living in a city, working at a computer all day, you're exposing yourself to lots of radiation, and iodine supplementation, you know, certainly can be a good idea. Okay, Max Kearney, how unhealthy would you say white bread is? Are there any good nutrients still even in it? So this is one of my absolute favorite topics. I know it's kind of weird, right? Like white bread. Why does she like white bread so much? Well, it's not that I like white bread. It's that I like talking about white bread. And perhaps it's because I've eaten so much of it in my life, and I remember back before I knew anything about health, man, I ate it all the time. Okay? White bread and pizza, bagels, sandwiches, obviously, pasta, macaroni. I mean, once you start thinking about all of the different places, all of the different meals where you're consuming white bread, you start to, especially if you keep a food journal, you'll start to realize, like, wow, we consume a lot of this stuff, especially here in the United States. And especially if you're eating a diet of highly processed foods. You'll find that enriched flour is an ingredient in almost all of them. Okay, and I talked a bit about enriched flour in the video that went up today. Sorry, I have like a eyelash or... Okay. So white bread. So the process of making white flour, okay, of making white bread. So again, this is all of the white bread things that you see, from pizza to bagels to whatever, right? It uses something called enriched flour. And it's a really misleading name. God, it's a horrible name. So what they do is the grain, okay, so a wheat grain has 3 different parts, and it's like the germ, the endosperm, and the something else. I don't know, I can't remember the names. But the bottom line is that you have like the starchy part, okay, the part that has most of the carbohydrates, most of the starch, okay, starch is just a form of sugar, okay, so when you hear the word starch or you hear the word carbohydrates, you can kind of think about it as being the same thing as sugar, okay? So there's the starchy part, the sweet part, okay? Then there's the part that has a lot of the minerals, a lot of the fiber, and then there's another part of the grain as well, and it has other nutrients in it, etc. So when they make the enriched flour, they actually just use that one part of the grain, the starchy part, the part that has all the carbohydrates, aka starch, aka sugar, okay? And that part of the grain, again, like I said, it doesn't contain the fiber, enzymes, minerals. All right, so this is the difference between white bread and whole wheat bread. And I remember, man, my whole life I had heard about wheat bread and whole wheat, and I never knew what it meant, right? Whole wheat, what does that mean? What, you know? But the difference, and this is such an important concept, the difference is that in whole wheat bread, they use the entire grain, okay? So you get the fiber and the minerals and the enzymes and all of these other nutrients that that wheat grain contains, but in the white bread, you don't. So the reason it's called enriched flour is that once they started this process of making flour with just the starch, they started observing all of these health problems in people who ate it. So what they did is they started adding minerals back into the flour, artificial or synthetic, usually often synthetic versions of the minerals get added back into the flour just so that you can digest it and not get sick. So it's enriched with all of the things that were removed that were naturally present in the whole wheat grain. So this is why whole wheat bread, whole grain foods, and just eating the whole grains themselves is literally maybe 100 times healthier than having the white bread. So to answer your question, yes, white bread really, really is bad. Okay, his question was, how unhealthy would you say white bread is? I would say white bread is incredibly unhealthy. Okay? He says, are there even still good nutrients left in it? Honestly, no. Because they're not even using the part of the grain that has most of those good nutrients in it. They strip them out completely. So what's happening in industrialized bread making or whatever is they've got the wheat grain, they strip out the starch, and they use it to make enriched flour in all of our foods, and then the other parts of the grains, they use it and they feed it to the livestock. So, you know, they're kind of doubling their I can't remember the phrase I'm looking for, but anyways, basically, right, for each wheat grain, they're getting double the use out of it because they're splitting it up. So if you consider whole wheat bread is the whole grain, white bread you could literally think of as a partial food. It's just part of the grain. And literally, it's the part that's all sugar, all carbs, and very, very minimal nutrients. So, yeah, I would really recommend that you avoid white bread. Now, obviously, again, we have to take that sense of reality, right? Which is that I know it's incredibly hard to avoid. I'm reading those food labels too. I'm out there, I'm looking, I know that enriched flour is used in almost everything. I know how hard it is to avoid, okay? So don't feel like I'm sitting here preaching to the choir, okay? I'm just trying to tell you, you know, this stuff is incredibly common. As much as you can do to avoid it will be incredibly helpful to your health and your waistline, but I know that it's not necessarily easy to avoid, okay? Now, I would say that is a problem with our food industry. By and large, my issues are not with people and their personal eating choices. My issues are with the food industry, the way they're processing the food, and then the way they market it to us to purposefully try to confuse us. That's a whole other topic for another day. But anyways, that topic of white bread I think is so important. I have a video called The Truth About Carbohydrates. Okay, and if you put in carbohydrates on the channel, this video will come up. That video really thoroughly explains why starch, and specifically that really starchy white bread, why it's so bad for you, why I tell you to basically consider it as being sugar, okay, because it has the same effects on our blood glucose levels. Blood glucose, aka blood sugar. Our blood sugar levels rise really, really high eating white bread. In a lot of cases, our blood sugar levels can even raise even higher with white bread than with pure sugar, if you look at the glycemic index. So I also have a video called Weight Loss and Sugar. Again, if you put in blood sugar or if you put in starch or carbohydrates, we do have lots of videos on that topic. I think that is maybe one of the, if not the most important topics in terms of controlling our health and controlling our weight, is understanding why white bread is so bad, and why whole grain foods are such a much better thing to eat than any kind of white bread or enriched flour food. Okay, looking for more questions. Okay, Liz Menezes is 4 tablespoons of air-popped popcorn without any butter unhealthy? So popcorn, okay. Popcorn is kind of a tough topic. All right, so corn, in and of itself, okay, the little vegetable corn, they're so cute. They're sweet, right? Little sweet corns. That's why they make high fructose corn syrup, right? Because corn is sweet. So when we're talking about eating corn, corn in itself, unpopped, gives us fiber, gives us a little bit of that sugar, a little bit of starch, some of that sweetness and carbs, okay? But again, it's got the fiber because it's in its natural state. So eating corn would be healthier for you than eating popped corn, because once you heat up that corn kernel, you do lose some of the nutrients that you would get if you just ate the corn, like a steamed cob of corn or something like that, right? So air popped popcorn is not as healthy of a choice as just eating the corn. Like I said, steamed corn or something like that. And butter, most of y'all know, I'm actually a fan of butter. Okay, I would actually prefer that you eat butter more than things like margarine. There's a lot of like butter sprays and butter substitutes. I would actually prefer that you just have the real butter. The full fat, actual butter out the cow. When we look at a lot of these butter substitutes, things like margarine, this is a highly processed frankenfood, as I like to say. Partially hydrogenated oils, aka trans fats, are usually what you will see in the ingredients of any kind of butter substitute-like product. Okay, but butter in and of itself is not a horrible food, and because it gives you a healthy source of fat, can actually be a good part of helping you sustain your hunger or satisfy your hunger, so to speak. So when we're talking about popcorn, now obviously the movie popcorn butter, right? That's one of our highly processed frankenfoods. They're not using grass-fed butter on the popcorn at the movie theater. Okay, so that butter, yes, you should avoid. But if you can find grass-fed butter, there's a great brand called Kerrygold. And it's more and more common. I see people all the time say, oh yeah, we have that butter here. Kerrygold butter, and they have cheeses as well. It's fantastic. And it'll say, made from milk with grass-fed cows, or milk from grass-fed cows. That's a really good thing to look for on any dairy product, is that the cows were eating grass. We're eating their natural diet. So I know you didn't ask about butter, but I do think it's an important thing to talk about. But when we're talking about buttered popcorn, obviously if it's that fake butter, it's bad. Or if we're talking about melting some grass-fed butter over some popcorn, that's not a horrible, horrible snack. Now again, I would prefer that you melt some butter over just the regular steamed corn. All right, you're gonna get more nutrients eating the corn unpopped than popped. Now, if we compare popcorn to potato chips, now popcorn is the good guy, okay? So popcorn, not as healthy as just steamed corn, but popcorn is way healthier than something like potato chips, okay? That would be a fried potato, okay? So, you know, when we're looking at health and stuff like that, usually it's always going to be relative, right? So it's better than one thing, not as healthy as another. This is a great example of that, okay? So, you know, especially if you are, you know, it sounds like you're measuring out how much popcorn you're eating. You know, if you sat down and just ate a huge, giant bowl of popcorn, that would be a lot of carbs, okay? Because when we pop the popcorn, it's lower carb than potato chips, but if you ate a huge, huge, huge amount of popcorn, that would be too much carbs, okay? And it would potentially contribute to weight gain. But if you're using air-popped popcorn as an alternative to potato chips or something, that is definitely a step in the right direction. Okay, Robert Koch, 1877, or Koch? I don't know how they say it. Koch. What if when I'm exercising, my head hurts and I faint and I end up not exercising at all? This sounds like a classic problem of pushing yourself too hard. The thing about exercising is that it's really about finding a perfect intensity level for you. Okay? Now, if we want to get the most out of a workout, the most out of exercising, and moving our body. It's crucial that we listen to our body and that we stay within what I would call this happy medium or happy balance of pushing ourselves, but not pushing ourselves too hard. Okay? So what I mean by that is that, you know, if you're just, you know, sitting there, you know, barely moving your body or something, or you get on a treadmill and you just barely are moving at like point, you know, super, super slow, the very lowest setting on the treadmill, you will still get benefits. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Even if you're literally just work out for like 3 minutes a day, or just stretch your body and not even actually do a workout, but just do stretching, it's beneficial. Even if you're just walking, at the treadmill on the absolute lowest level, that is still good for you. That is still beneficial. Okay? So, you know, what ends up happening, what I see a lot, especially in my health coaching clients, and I've seen this in myself too, is that we get this feeling when we're going to go work out that it's not worth it unless we really push ourselves really hard. And that is just a complete misconception. Okay? Any little thing that you do, like I said, even if it's just sitting there like this, doing little arm circles, don't even have to get up out of your chair. That's beneficial. That's good for you. And so I know I'm kind of maybe belaboring this point, but I really can't stress this enough, which is to recognize that every little thing you do, no matter how easy or how not strenuous or whatever, is a step in the right direction and is really good for you. Okay? And is definitely helping you get healthier. Now, if you're wanting to lose weight, you're wanting to burn fat, all right? So if you want to cause your body to start metabolizing fat or burning fat on your body, you do need to get up to a certain intensity level of cardio workout in order to initiate that fat burning process. So with that said, there are lots of people out there who lose weight just walking, okay? Or who lose weight just with relaxing yoga and not strenuous things, okay? So I'm not saying that you have to do this, but at the same time, you know, especially if you're wanting results, you do need to get up to a certain level of intensity. Now, with that said, equally important to recognize that if you're pushing yourself too far, it's actually counterintuitive to your intentions. All right, so if you are pushing yourself so hard that you have a headache and you faint, you're working out too hard, you're demanding too much of your body, and now your efforts are actually counterproductive to getting healthier and losing weight. When we exercise our bodies, okay, especially in terms of things like weightlifting or cardio workout, all right, this is actually destructive while we're doing it. All right, so when you're lifting weights, you're actually tearing the muscles. You're destroying the muscle fibers. Okay, that's what you're doing when you lift weights. And then what makes that workout good for you is the next day when you allow yourself to recover. So actually when you're sitting there pumping iron, ow, oh, it hurts so bad. You're actually destroying your muscles and breaking them down. And you don't actually get stronger until the next day when your muscles repair. So that's one really important concept. That's in terms of like weightlifting, stuff like that. Okay? Just recognize there's a sweet spot, so to speak. You want to push yourself. You want to make demands on your body. You want to kind of move outside of your comfort level a little bit, but you don't want to go past that. You don't need to push yourself beyond the point of comfort, and it's actually worse for you to push yourself beyond the point of comfort. So, Robert, I hope that answers your question. And kind of the wrap up that I would say, so his question was, what if when I exercise, my head hurts and I faint and I end up not exercising at all? You're pushing yourself too far. You're pushing yourself too much. You just need to bring it back a little bit. So again, you know, when you're working out, you want to push yourself a little bit past your comfort level. But if your head starts to hurt, you start to feel dizzy and woozy, pull it back. Okay, so sometimes when I'm running, I'll start getting that feeling. My head starts to hurt. I start feeling like I'm feeling woozy, and I stop running, and I just move to a walk. Let my body get back in balance, get back to feeling good, and then maybe I can go back to running again. But you don't want to push yourself to the point that you're fainting and you're having headaches. Now, I know there's a lot of athletes out there who would disagree with me and who would say, you are no pain, no gain. I'm not a no pain, no gain kind of person. Okay, again, I understand you got to go out of your comfort level. You got to push yourself a little bit. But I don't think it's necessary that you make yourself miserable. And it's certainly not very sustainable. Because like Robert's saying here, right? If he's pushing himself to the point that he gets a headache and he faints, guess what he's going to end up doing? Never exercising again. So anyways, Robert, my advice is to pull it back. Don't push yourself so far. Exercising should be something that when you get done, you feel that endorphin rush, you feel good, you feel energized. You shouldn't feel like you're gonna faint. You shouldn't feel like you're gonna throw up. Again, a lot of athletes out there will be like, oh, that's how you know it's working. And that's great for them. But for me, it's not how I like to live my life, okay? So pull it back, go easy on yourself. Know that even if you're just walking or just doing stretches and not even doing actual workouts, any movement that you do is really good for you. All right, any exercise you do is super good for you. Don't feel like you have to push yourself to the point of misery in order to make your workout, worth it, so to speak. Okay, Ruby Griffiths. When I am sad, I tend to eat a lot of food. I'm not seeing, okay, here we go. No. I'm not seeing an actual question, but I can certainly talk about that, as a comment, right? Ruby says, when I'm sad, I tend to overeat. I tend to eat a lot. This is something that I think every single one of us has observed and does, right? I certainly know that when I'm sad, I'm like, I want ice cream, I want a pizza, no, I'm sad. Because food is comforting, right? That's why they call food comfort food, right? And some foods, right, when we think about the comfort foods, are particularly known to be comforting. Starchy things, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, stuff like that. Those comfort foods are called comfort foods because oftentimes when we eat them, they kind of make us feel better, so to speak. But the bottom line is that really they aren't making us feel better, right? If we're eating junk food, that's not going to make us feel better. But overeating just in general is never something that's going to make us feel better. So my recommendations, and this is a question that I've definitely got before, right? What do I do when I'm sad and all I want to do is eat, right? How do I avoid overeating when feeling sad? So the first thing would be to make sure that you're satisfying your hunger, right? Because sometimes when we're sad, if we're actually hungry, right, we'll end up eating and then we'll overeat. So one consideration is just really making sure that you're eating enough so that you're not contributing to a state of starvation. Now, I know a lot of times when we're sad or we're feeling depressed, it kind of kills our appetite and then we don't want to eat. So what happens, I know this has happened to me, I'm sad, so I'm not eating, and I'm sad and I'm not eating, and sad and not eating, and then all of a sudden I'm binging. Right? And it's because I've been starving myself for a couple hours, being sad and not eating. So sometimes when we're sad, actually what we need to do is to force ourselves to eat something, but force yourself to eat something good, something that's going to satisfy your hunger. So I love things like nuts and trail mix as a snack. Any of my healthy foods for weight loss videos will be a really good guide of foods that would be good to eat when you need to satisfy your hunger. Any kind of vegetables, anything with fiber. Again, we talked about the whole grains and the legumes. Those are going to be good ways to help satisfy your hunger. And making sure you have some good healthy fats that you're eating, like avocados are a great example. Really satisfying your hunger is an important thing to do when you're feeling sad, because if we are hungry and we're sad, we're kind of setting ourselves up to end up binging and overeating. The second thing is to have other handlings for that sadness, right? So a lot of times we just get used to, we're sad, we reach for chocolate. We're stressed out, we eat pizza. And over time we can kind of almost condition our body that when we're sad, we crave these certain foods. And when we're sad, this is our go-to thing that we do. So the advice or the recommendation is to create other go-to things that you can do when you're feeling sad. So probably one of my favorite things is yoga. You know, a lot of times if I'm feeling sad or something, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put on a yoga video and stretch my body out, move my body around. And more often than not, that really, really helps. Partly because moving your body unlocks the stress and tension that literally gets held up in our muscles. So that can help us feel better. Okay, just releasing a lot of that stress by moving the body. And then when we consider that doing yoga really integrates the importance of breathing, and breathing deeply, and bringing our attention to our breath. And this, just in and of itself, the breathing deeply and consciously, okay, really helps to calm the body, lower cortisol levels, aka the stress hormone. And when we're talking about emotions and feeling sad or overwhelmed or depressed, again, lowering the stress is going to be a really important part of that. Breathing exercises, just having breathing exercises you can do when you're sad or feeling stressed, or even creating little things you can do, like going outside, just going outside and breathing some fresh air, or taking a walk. Journaling can be a great thing to do when you're sad. Just getting the thoughts out of your head and onto paper has this incredible cathartic effect. Talking to someone can have that same effect, right? Sometimes it's something we want to talk about to someone, but sometimes maybe it's something that we just need to journal about. And the thing about journaling is that, you know, you're doing it for you. It's not for anyone else to read. It's not for anyone else to ever look at or ever see. Literally, the whole purpose is just getting what's in here written down. Something about just writing it down. Writing down, how do you feel? I'm feeling depressed. I feel fat. I feel ugly. Nobody likes me. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. Write down what you feel. And often what ends up happening to me is I start writing something, and then you get that stream of consciousness or whatever, where you just start writing, and now you're writing and you're not even maybe really conscious what you're writing, And then 20 minutes or 30 minutes later, you've filled up all these pages, and I just feel this weight has been lifted. So journaling, man, I can't tell you enough, myself personally, how helpful journaling has been. But the whole idea here is just creating other things that you can do other than eating when you're sad. And as you build these new habits of kind of go-to things that you can do when you're feeling depressed or upset or stressed out, just gives you other options, other ways to cycle through and kind of handle those feelings, so that you can transition away from using food as a crutch, using food as a way to try and make ourselves feel better. Okie dokie. All right, you guys, so it is about 6:45. Let's see if there's maybe one more question in here. Brenda Card says, is it better to work out in the AM or the PM? Nope. Anytime you work out is a great time to work out. Whatever time you can work out is the best time to work out. You know, one of the things I observed about myself and that I've observed among my health coaching clients when I work with them is that our brain, you know, we always, what am I looking for? It's almost like our brain overthinks things in order to just be an excuse for us to not do it. So for instance, oh, it's better to work out at night, so I'm not going to work out in the morning. Or, anyways, there's lots of examples. I'm not going to sit here and come up with examples, but in this particular case, this is a prime example where our brain is basically trying to find an excuse not to work out, right? Because if morning rolls around and you tell yourself, oh, it's better to work out at night, guess what? You just got out of a workout. And if nighttime rolls around and you're like, oh, I'm going to wait for the morning to work out, guess what? You just got out of a workout. So literally any time is the best time to work out. There are lots of athletes out there who have written about this topic and who have discussed it, and there's certainly people out there who have different opinions on this matter. Again, I think it's kind of a personal thing, right? It's going to vary person to person. So what may be more effective for one person might not be as effective for another. So largely I would kind of challenge you to experiment and see, well, what makes you feel better? And then largely what I would say is work out both. Work out as much as possible. And when I say that, I have to say that with a grain of salt, okay? Because like the comment we were talking about earlier where somebody said, what if every time I work out I faint and get a headache? Don't push yourself too hard. Don't work out too much. Okay, so a lot of times what I see happen with people is they're like, I'm working out 6 days a week and I still can't lose weight. Well, it's because they're working out too much, right? Because working out is stressful on the body. So if that's your problem, you're working out too much, I would recommend switching out some of your workouts for some of those yoga for relaxation or yoga for flexibility videos, something that's still moving your body but is less strenuous and less demanding than your regular workout. But that comment aside about working out too much, yeah, work out as much as you can. If it's morning, great. If it's night, great. If it's both, even better. Cool, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate you guys joining me for the chat, hanging out, asking your questions. I just always have such a wonderful time with you guys, and I hope that you all have a wonderful time too. As always, I do appreciate you being here, and I do look forward to seeing you all again next week. If I didn't get to your question, because there's actually no way to answer every single question that gets left, you can be sure to save it and leave it on the Facebook page for next week, or you can email me. My email is emailcorrina@gmail.com, and you can shoot over your questions to me. Y'all can learn more about me and my health coaching practice at corrinarachel.com. If you don't know how to spell my name, it's linked in all of my Psychetruth videos on the Psychetruth channel. I should probably start putting it in the live chat description as well. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. Whether or not you take any of this advice home with you and apply any of it, this was still an incredible investment in your health, in your future, in your happiness. And so I appreciate you for being here. Your body appreciates you being here. And again, I hope to see you all next week. It's time for live chat. Ooh, the Psychetruth live chat. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on your YouTube machine. Live chat, live chat, live chat, live chat. It's the Psychetruth live chat, live chat, live chat, live chat. Ooh, live chat. Ooh. Live chat. Ooh. Ba-dum. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Bum, bum, ba. The Psychetruth live chat. Thank you all so much for being here. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you joining me, and I look forward to seeing you guys all again next week. Same time, same place, right here on your YouTube machine. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again next time.